I was like, if Amanda was reading this right now, she would lose her mind.
This is where I get in trouble. He climbed up into a tree and then the branch broke in the middle.
Welcome to another episode of the Gimbal Guys podcast. We're your hosts, Nick Jones, Sam Nato.
Hello.
And we have a guest today.
Hi, I'm Amanda Storace.
Hello.
Very first guest. Very
Yes,
exciting.
Our very first guest
Yay.
on the wedding podcast here.
Honored.
Very easy
Honestly,
to talk to.
you were going to be it for no matter what.
Oh, yeah?
No matter who we would have on in the future, I was like, Amanda's the first one.
Oh, man. Now I feel pressure.
No, you're going to give us absolute gold here. I mean, very easy to talk to, very natural, so we appreciate
I mean, we've been
being
talking
here.
for nearly 2 hours,
2 hours
before we hit
we started
recording.
Wah, wah, wah.
So let's just start with super simple kind of introductions.
Yeah.
Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so like I said, my name is Amanda Storace. I own Moments to Remember, which is a wedding planning coordination company here in New Hampshire. But yeah, we're kind of all over New England. We're traveling a lot further nowadays, which has been scary. But we're loving
How
it.
far?
Well, we had one in Colorado.
Oh, so really
Drive.
traveling.
No,
I was gonna say.
no. And then I also I have one in Germany next year.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm like super excited. So I have a bunch of friends that are in the military, and they're based over in Germany right now. And I might be heading over there to help a couple of them out because they don't want to wait.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do more travel weddings. We only done the one, but
Yeah. Where was that to?
it was in Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need like some exciting, like we need a Mexico or a Caribbean island or something like that. That would be fun. Or
Yeah.
Europe.
I mean, Colorado seems
Italy.
good too, like the Colorado, Utah area. I'd love to go
Yeah.
out there too.
Yeah, Utah. So it was fun. I call it a destination. Anything that's not within my driving
Right.
Yeah.
is always interesting because it's like, okay, well, I don't have my normal vendor group, so I have to kind of like screen people a lot more than what I normally do when they're not right here.
Yeah.
What kind of like, so how does somebody get into your position? How does somebody go from whatever you're doing before to wedding planning? Kind of give us a little bit of background on how you
Well, you were doing some
started with
weird
all of
stuff
it.
before this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been all over the map. I'm one of those people where you're like, oh, you've had a couple of lives before you found your calling.
You could say that.
Yeah. So like I went to school for business admin and got my marketing degree and all that. And I was like, I really don't want to go back to school to get my master's, and I kind of needed to. So it's like, I like doing events. So I did a Vista year in events, and I was like, oh, that's fun. But it was more like volunteer coordination with events. And I was like, that's great. Wasn't like hugely in love, and I kind of fell out of it with events at that point. And I ended up getting into a couple tech companies, and I ended up being a executive assistant to a CEO of a big tech company in Manchester, and found my husband, fell in love there, and I was like, I feel like I should go back into events and not be in the tech industry, and we can like have our eggs in very different baskets. So I went into high school robotic competitions.
Right.
And
It's very specific.
yes. So I was a volunteer coordinator for high school robotic competitions, but it was 168 events in a 7-week period.
Jeez.
And my job was managing the volunteers that were running those events and managing those events. So like China would be calling me at 2 a.m. and like Australia. And I was like, I love events. I'm sick of watching kids get their fingers ripped off.
I was going to say that. I thought there was something to do with like fingers falling off or something.
Yeah, they have this like big championship event, and like my role it was like the last 2 events of the year, and So I've been traveling for 6 to 7 weeks, and then you go to these 2 championship events at the very end, and like that's when like you're in the battlefields, and you would see things that you normally wouldn't see at events. So like the kids would be all excited and like trying to work on their robots, and they would put their hands in robots that were still on, and their fingers are getting ripped off, and some of the things I saw, you're like, I love robots and events.
Not together.
Not together. With high school kids.
Yeah.
It's a rough age.
Too many hormones.
Well, and the smell.
Yeah.
Like, they don't shower, and they're like, there's 50,000 of them in one room.
High school kids, I can imagine.
Yeah, 50,000 like robot kids in one room. Just not.
No.
It's a hard pass for me. Was super fun though, but I just needed something different, and I had been helping out a bunch of my friends with their weddings. I did my wedding. I was like, this is fun. I'm not a huge romantic, but this is fun, and I can do this. So I did shadow someone for a season, and I was like, I could totally do this. And I was at the time with a different nonprofit, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger. Like, I'm going to do it. So I quit my full-time job, and I just opened up my own business, started Moments to Remember, and COVID hit.
That's rough.
Yeah, but it was actually really good in the long run because I was able to focus on like all the back end stuff for about a year.
Right.
And then once 2021 came, it was pure explosion. It was events all the time, and we haven't stopped since, which is really nice.
Yeah. Do you think you have some specific kind of like personality traits that lend well to weddings, like type A, super organized, or just event planning in general?
I think I definitely have some. Like, I think why some of my clients like me so much is that I am super personable. Like, I can pretty much talk to anything, anyone, like a bush on the side of the road. I'm happy to talk to if it's going to make you happy. So, like, I fit really well into a lot of different circumstances or different environments, and it's okay, you need me to go talk to your mom who's angry and is upset because she wants to walk you down the aisle and you're saying no. Like, I can do that, and I can make her feel happy about it in the long run. You want me to hold a baby for you? Sure, why not? Kids love me. But I'm also really good at like calming people down. So like, I've had it a couple times where like brides will be freaking out like 5 minutes before the wedding. And I'm like, we just need to, everyone's going to leave this room for a second, and we're going to sit, and we're just going to pretend that this is a normal day. And we're going to just breathe for a little bit. We're going to drink some water. We're going to get some cheese in you if you need some cheese. And I'm able to calm people down really well, which I think also helps.
Would you say that is, I guess, one of the biggest traits that makes a good wedding coordinator, or do you think there's more to it?
I think there's more to it. So you have to have the calming, but you have to have the firm. So you need to be able to switch in between like different personality traits very quickly and kind of adapt to the environment. Because when things aren't going well, you still have to be calm, even if you're freaking out on the inside.
Right.
So I think like if I had to pick like one trait that every single like wedding planner or coordinator has to have, it would be being able to adapt into anything. So being that chameleon.
I think that goes for any wedding vendor, as well, but especially planners. I think we all have we have to wear a lot of different hats on the day, even as videographers. Sometimes
you have to adapt.
Sometimes we're therapists as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you guys way more than us, but
family dynamics are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which fascinate me, and I think that's why I love my job so much.
The nosiness of it.
My husband says I'm the queen of nosy, and it's probably the truth, but I definitely think because I'm so nosy, I know how to handle things too. Be like, oh, I've seen this before.
that helps.
Let
That
me
helps.
figure this out.
Yeah, and I think any sort of family dynamics that are kind of like hiding under the surface on a normal day, they just are amplified for a wedding. It's like you could
So
talk to
much.
somebody like months in advance, and then on the wedding day, they're an entirely different person.
Yes, absolutely. Like I had a bride like a couple years ago, and I still remember it very like vividly. And it was just like she was an absolute angel. And then it was like the morning of, she literally walked through the venue doors, and I'm like, who is this person?
It's a
Possessed.
monster.
Like, what happened? Luckily, we were able to bring her from like a 20 back down to like a normal range. But I was like, what is going on? Like, something happened. Like, is she in a fight? Like, because a lot of times it's like, they'll be like, I fought with so-and-so this morning, or I hate this person. And I'm like, as long as it's not the person you're getting married to in like 3 hours, I can fix this.
Yeah.
Or people will try to like take something to like calm themselves down on the wedding day that ends up going south.
Oh, it backfires all the time.
Drinking before the ceremony.
Yes.
Don't
Do not
anything
drink,
that
do
you normally
drugs, or
do.
anything before the ceremony.
Yeah.
I like joke at the rehearsal. I tell everyone, I go, just so you know, you legally have to be sober and not under the influence of anything to get married. It is a legally binding contract.
Actually, I mean, that makes sense. I did not know that, but that's probably a good law to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, so think of it this way. If you showed up to your wedding and you're, like, completely plastered and you're like, no, I don't want to get married, but you
Yeah.
go through with it because you're drunk and you don't know what's right or wrong at that point, you could come back and be like, we need to get this annulled. And it'll get annulled in, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because all you have to say is I'm under the influence.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't know what was,
Yeah.
the
Weren't
sky
aware.
was blue. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. You've seen a lot of crazy things. You wear a lot of hats, but kind of like bring us through a little bit of kind of like what kind of services that you offer, how you work, and kind of like what goes into event planning. I have like a few specific things I'm wondering about, kind of like day of coordination, venue coordinators, and how all that shakes out versus like wedding planning. And but kind of just like bring us through what you do, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess the easiest way to say it. So I offer 3 services. I offer full planning, which is exactly what it sounds like. You give me a budget, I figure it out. I offer partial planning, where we would meet once a month, and I go, okay, this month, here's the homework, here's how to do it. Let's talk about last month's homework. How did we do? Are we stuck between vendors? But let's talk about what's kind of that sticking point so that you can feel good moving forward, signing that contract. And those 2 come with day of coordination, which we hate that term, as Nick knows. 'Cause
Yes.
tell
I
him
know
all
it
the
too,
time.
yeah.
It's my I hate saying it. And then we offer event management, which is what some people call day of coordination.
But it's not.
But it's not, because our job starts 6 months before.
Right.
And that one's really, we have check-ins at the 6 month, the 3 month, the 1 month, the 1 week. And we go, okay, who are your wedding vendors? What are the contracts? What do the contracts say? Hey, did you know that your contract says this? Because this is kind of a weird thing in a contract. And then we would be there the whole day for vendor management, timeline management, decor management. And rehearsal the day before too. Yeah. But you brought up venue coordination.
Yeah.
Completely different than what I do.
Right.
Right.
So a lot of venues, they offer what's similar to my event management, but it's usually at an upcharge price. But when you hear the word venue coordinator, their job is to make sure the venue is okay. So making
Right.
sure that the tables are set up, making sure that if they have in-house catering, that the in-house catering is doing what they're supposed to be doing. They sometimes will do timeline management and some vendor management, but they're definitely not helping you get into your dress. They're not helping tie guys' ties. They're not whiteouting whiting out things. And
Yeah, and that's honestly who we're more so like working with outside of like actual coordinators. We normally work with venue.
Yep.
coordinators for the most part. And you're right, they don't help with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
They'll pop in and be like, "You
How's
guys
it
ready?
going? Yeah.
Okay, let's go."
Yeah, you're having a panic attack? Good luck.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll be back in 5.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fix that.
I know a couple venue coordinators who they're good.
Oh, there's some
And
that
like,
are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
There's quite a few that I could name off the top of my head that I'm like, I'll work there anytime
Same.
someone tells
Yeah.
me to.
Yeah, but I feel like the main takeaway from that is kind of like anybody who's like a venue coordinator, the best, even if you're hiring them as the couple, their best interest is the venue always. If you hire a planner, obviously their best interest is
The couple.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
the couple.
it's a huge difference.
Huge difference. Yeah. The venue, they get paid by the venue.
Yeah.
Me, I get paid by the client. So I'm not too worried if I'm telling the venue something firmly to be like, no, this is what we discussed earlier. The venue, though, is going to be like, actually, I have to do what my boss says right now, so we're going to change the whole timeline on the day of. I put my foot down with things like that if I have to,
Yeah.
if it makes sense.
Are there wedding planners out there who pitch a true day of coordination service? Like, do you know of any? Like, don't name anybody, but like,
Oh, I would never name anyone.
so people do that.
They do. It tends to be those people who, how do I put this the nicest way? They tend to be the people who are like, I really like doing something and I have no clue how to actually do it. Like, I've never shadowed anyone. I've never gone any formal training. They tend to be the ones who are like, yeah, I'll just show up and make sure everything's pretty and perfect. The big thing right now is people saying month of coordination. So they come at the 1 month. They're like, see, like we do more stuff than that. But true day of, if someone's offering that, it's usually people who they'll charge you $600 to $800.
Wow.
But they really don't know the ins and outs of what's supposed to be happening. So like with our event management, like I know exactly what's supposed to be happening every minute of that day. And I know your vendors. I've researched your vendors. Your vendors have talked to me or have gotten at least an email from me saying, hi, my name is Amanda. So-and-so asked me to help coordinate and execute their wedding on the day of. Here's the timeline that I've been working on with them. Does this work with your timeline? Are there any edits I could make? How can I make your day easier? Like, they've heard from me. I've talked to them pretty well before your wedding. So like, I'm in the trenches. I know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of couples don't realize that there's kind of that separation of things. Like I saw a Facebook post a few weeks ago. It was like, hey, our wedding's next Saturday. Does anybody know someone who can come to this venue to do day of coordination? We have $300. I was like, if Amanda was reading this right now, she would lose her mind.
Yes. I see it all the time. Or like the other post that I see all the time is, I'm looking for an affordable like day of coordinator or a coordinator. And I'm like, well, you need to say what affordable is.
Right.
Because your definition versus my definition, because I see that, I think my day of coordination event management package is very affordable for what you're getting. You're getting 12 hours on the day of. You're getting an hour for rehearsal. You're getting at least 4 hours beforehand of me on meetings, and then probably another like 5 hours worth of emails and prep that I have to do. So like the price that I have, I think is very affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a realistic price for me to be able to stay in the business.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah. I think a lot of people throw shade on the wedding industry because they think everything kind of has this like wedding tax associated with it.
Yep.
And I think, there's also a thing to be said about you get what you pay for. People aren't just like, maybe some people are just charging what they charge because they think they can.
Yeah.
But most reliable vendors are charging that way because, it's enough to support their business for the value that they're delivering. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think a lot of people think that they'll see, I guess photography is the easiest example. It's like you might hire a photographer for like a 2-hour corporate event, and that rate for that photographer would be significantly less than a wedding.
Yeah.
But then what are they actually delivering? It's a completely different thing. Plus, not to mention like the pressures of a wedding day. There's
People don't understand. I have
Yeah.
to pay for a therapist. Like, well, and it comes down to it too. Like, so I sometimes say, or when I'm talking to new planners who just want to ask me some questions, I go, you have to set your price on what you need. So you have to think about, okay, well, I have to pay my bills at the end of the month, whether that's my personal bills or my business bills, because both of them will come at you regardless of if you are working or not. But I also I have to think about retirement. Like, this is a job, so I have to have myself set up for retirement. Like, I'm self-employed, so it's a whole thing that people don't think about. It's like, I'm doing this because I love doing weddings, but I also have to be able to live at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's been such a high price tag on weddings for many, or it's just been a large. People see the dollar amount that it costs to do a wedding, and they're just blown away because they don't realize it costs that much. But I think a lot of people nowadays, I've talked about this with Nick before. I've seen it kind of going in two different directions at the same time. So like the bigger weddings are getting bigger.
Oh yeah.
And the smaller weddings are getting smaller. There's not as much in between. But I think what a lot of people are realizing now is that you can be more intentional with certain things that are kind of like budget conscious. And it's things I'm thinking about going into planning my own wedding. It's like, okay, what are my goals with this wedding? What kinds of things do I need to allocate more budget towards, or like what kinds of things do I not care about? And I think with kind of like that, weddings getting smaller, budgets, people are being a little bit more conscious with that. There's a lot of talk of like DIY, do it yourself, backyard weddings, that sort of thing. So what kind of things do you think realistically that a couple could essentially like DIY in an effort to like save money?
It all comes down to your priorities. So one of the first questions I'd ask any of my clients that are in either the partial or the full is like, what are your top 3 priorities? Once I know those, then we can DIY or figure out what we're going to DIY. The most common things I see DIY'd are signage. You can make your signage on Canva and literally go to Staples and get it printed on foam board.
Right.
And it still looks really nice. It's a high quality print. It's great. You're never going to use your welcome to our wedding sign ever again.
Exactly.
Don't pay the $100 and something off of Etsy or have your friend custom make it and then your friend's freaking out for 2 weeks. Just $5, Staples it. Super simple. The next thing I see a lot of people do is invites. You can also make those on Canva.
All the stationery stuff.
Yeah. Canva's super easy. Or you could do a $5 download if you find one on Etsy and just print them off yourself on cardstock. $20 tops.
Yeah.
Super easy. Florists are about to hate me, but I see a lot of DIY flowers now. So whether it's the solo wood flowers, which they're always having those 50% off sales. Those are a big thing right now. They're like a wood flower that's really nice. Or there's Michael's. You can buy some flowers from Michael's. They have 70% off sales all the time. You can buy $2,000 worth of flowers for $500. Mm-hmm. I had a cousin he was one of my first weddings that I ever did under the Moments to Remember umbrella.
Yep.
And he was dead set. He's like, well, flowers, people are going to know they're fake, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but is this a priority? We have a budget we're trying to stay to. At the end of the day, do you really think Aunt Marge is going to be oh my God, they're so cheap, they have fake flowers? No one's going to care.
Exactly.
All they care about is that you guys are happy and you're together. DIY the flowers. I ended up having to do a mock-up for him to be how does this look? This is $10 versus if you were to do this in real flowers, this is going to cost you $120.
I think because I didn't know this initially how expensive flora stuff actually is.
Yeah, and a lot of them have
Rightfully
minimal.
so. If
Yes.
it's like, if they're growing it themselves, if they're sourcing it from a great spot.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a podcast recently. They were talking about like, there's like a whole dark side to floral production where it's like
Yes.
you get them from sketchy places, and it's like that's why supermarket flowers are so cheap, and you gotta like store it, you gotta have these massive coolers. Then a lot of people are not just florists, they're floral designers.
Yep.
And there's a whole
Exactly.
artistic side of that. You're hiring somebody for their creativity and their vision.
Yeah.
It's like, I think
Yeah.
it's just another one of those things where people need to be intentional with what they're doing.
Very much. And you can still have, and this is what I tell all my people, I'm like, you can still have real flowers. We just have to be very intentional about how we're doing it. Maybe it's fake centerpieces, real bouquets.
Real bouquet, yeah, exactly.
Maybe not a giant altar of like
real
tons
ones,
of
yeah.
Yes.
expensive flowers.
Exactly. Like, and I love real flowers. If it's in the budget, go for it.
Yeah.
Especially like depending on what type of flowers you want to use. I just had a client who she's like, we switched from baby's breath to hydrangeas. And I was like, well, you have to remember the reasons why they're called hydrangeas is because they need a lot of water. I'm like, so like we can do it. We just have to make sure that like we've got misters. Like I'll mist all the flowers before the ceremony just to make sure that they're still fresh. But then she like texted me a couple days later and she's like, well, what if we DIY the hydrangeas and then we just get the bouquets from the florist? And I was like, we can do it. I'm like, I don't recommend it because hydrangeas are they're finicky flowers. I'm like, so we just have to be kind of conscious about like what we're using. And if it's 90 degrees out, we're going to have to dunk those flowers for hours before we even put them out. Because there's a way that with hydrangeas, like you put them in a whole vat of water and you soak them overnight and they like soak up all the water and they'll last longer. So like we might have to do that if it's going to be a 90-degree day.
I did not know that. That's a lot.
Interesting,
Yeah.
because my fiance wants hydrangeas.
I'm not a huge fan of hydrangeas, to be honest.
Well, this is at a beautiful venue, like on the coast, like on the side of this cliff. And I'm like, if we're going for that New England vibe, hydrangeas.
Yeah, gotta go for it.
Yeah.
Are there like, can you source like decent looking, not real hydrangeas? Is it possible? Or do you normally
Hydrangeas
just get
are hard.
Yeah, because it's like pretty. I mean, that's like one of those flowers where it's like if it's fake. it
Yeah.
kinda
So
like
there
looks fake.
are some hydrangeas, like fake hydrangeas. But you're going to be paying $15 a stem for them. And at that point,
Yeah,
you
what's the
might as
point?
well just
Yeah.
go. It's almost the same price as real.
Got it.
He's like,
know.
I'm calling
I am
up the
taking note.
fiance.
I'm gonna tell her to
Change of
listen to
plans.
this.
Tell her to give me a call.
Yeah.
But
I think you can get away with like the greenery a lot.
Oh,
easier
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
My mom, she hand makes these like artisan wreaths and stuff all the time. She's always finding like greenery and things from Hobby Lobby and like Joann's Crafts and things like that. And they like, these look great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's like, so I offer decor. So I do like a flat rate. Like for $500, you get full access to my warehouse. And it's $500. You can't go wrong with that.
That's a steal. You have a lot of stuff.
I have way too much stuff. But like I have like eucalyptus garlands and like all this like fake florals. And I'm like, you can, one of the most common things I do is I'll bring the eucalyptus garland and then we'll put like baby's breath, like real baby's breath in it. So you can mix the two and it'll look really nice still. And it doesn't break the bank because eucalyptus garland, like real eucalyptus garlands, you're looking at like $150 per table.
Wow.
We were also looking specifically at eucalyptus and baby's breath. So
One
Speaking
thing
my
to
language
remember,
here.
baby's breath smells. So make
Is
sure
that why it's called baby's breath?
It smells like baby powder. So you have to make sure you like that smell, because if you're using a lot of it, it can be very overwhelming. Yeah. Especially if you're in an enclosed space.
Got it.
Let the library smell come out.
I'm learning so much.
Because you are
I have
in
to
an
know a lot
enclosed
about
space.
a little bit, I have to know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So flowers is one of those.
Little pockets of knowledge.
Yeah.
Again, another one of those hats you're wearing. You're a therapist, you're a floral designer, you're a...
I am not a DJ.
Not a DJ.
I can't do it. I hate the microphone. My voice sounds awful on a microphone.
You will be happy to know we will be hiring a 100% professional DJ.
Thank you.
Not a family
Who
friend.
does it as their full-time job.
Yes. It's one of the things you can't skip on. Like you gotta hire at least a qualified DJ, someone who's done it before, not one who's like a family friend who's like, I'm gonna try this for the first time and hope for the best.
No. They
Don't
make
do
or break the night.
They make or break the night, and I've seen it really destroy weddings.
Oh, yes.
At least 2 a year.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, when I hear it's a friend, I go, that's great. Have they done this before? And if they go, no, and I go, you might want to rethink that. That's the one thing I usually am pretty like, you want to rethink that.
Yeah.
You don't want a DJ to go bad.
I mean, yeah, as people who work with them and who, are listening to them throughout the night, a good DJ is so important to us.
Yeah. And a DJ who downloads their songs. Don't let them stream.
Right.
At least in the backwoods of New Hampshire.
I mean, most places
I don't even stream
don't
my
have
own
great
music in the
service.
car. I download all my music for the car.
Yeah. Well, it's like I had a DJ this year, not the one that we had together, but I had a DJ this year who 100% streams his stuff, and I had told him previously, I'm like, hey, we've had a problem before. Like this venue, you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have satellite, like you don't have a cell phone signal. And he's like, oh, well, I bring like a hotspot. I'm like, you don't have cell phone signal. I'm like, I don't care what carrier you have. It's just not going to happen. And he's like, oh, no, I've never had a problem. And I was like,
You will today.
you will. I'm like, I'm at this venue all the time. You're going to have a problem. We got through the middle of speeches, and he like ran out in the middle of speeches. And I'm like, the mom is ending her speech in literally 2 seconds. Like, where are you going? And I see him out. I look out of the window, and he's running around the side of this building to his car. And I'm like, what's going on? And then the mom's speech ends, and I'm like, I go over.
Do you grab the mic?
And I grab the mic. And I'm like, hi, everyone. Dinner's about to start. I'll be up to all your tables to release you. Just hold tight.
Oh, God.
There's no backup song. There's nothing. And I'm like, oh, I'm dying on the inside. So he comes back in, and he's like, I don't have connection here. And I'm like, I told you this in advance.
Bring those receipts.
So I was able to get him somewhat set, but then he had to we got him enough service for him to download a little bit, because the venue did have Wi-Fi, but it's not the best Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't expect venues to have great Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so it's and I'm like, you need to start downloading. The second I get you on this Wi-Fi, you need to just download, rapid download everything. And he's buying off of iTunes songs.
Jeez. Oh my God.
And I'm like, my soul is dying. I've died, but I've not gone up to heaven.
What DJ stories have we had this year that, aside from the one, I can't really think of any. I know they haven't been great, but
we've told a lot of them before. It's just we've just had some difficulty this year in particular with just asking the plug-in.
I think it's more so been a videographer problem, not necessarily a DJ experience. It's the DJ videographer relationship has been iffy this year for us.
Sometimes, I love DJs. I sometimes like them more than bands, just because they're on my end easier.
They're easier. They're easier.
I'm
for
a
us
little
to work with,
selfish
too.
in that way.
Yeah, same.
But like sometimes, every now and then, I run into like maybe 1 or 2 a year where it's like the attitude, and I'm like, come on, like we're all in this together, like we're the vendor family for the day, like please just go with us on this. Like I'm asking you to do this because it's what the bride and groom wants, or like it's going to be helping this vendor. And I'm like, I personally don't ask people to do things unless it's like for the better. So I'm like, I'm not going to ask you something that's going to make you look bad.
Right.
I say it all the time. My job is to orchestrate. I'm like, so I pretend that this is a big orchestra. You guys are the violins. We got some flutes. We got the band, like the drums in the back. We got some trumpets in there. I'm there just like waving the things, and you guys are making it all happen. But I'm like, I'm not going to make you do something that's going to make the whole orchestra out of whack. Like, I'm asking you because it's going to help everyone.
Right. Yeah. No, being like a team is so crucial. And stop me if I shouldn't say this.
Okay.
I'm nervous now.
No, it's a good thing. It's like a good example of like actually working together. There wasn't a coordinator, and it was a venue coordinator, so they didn't care what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it was raining, and the ceremony happened indoors in this tent where the reception was also happening. And cocktail hour was going to be inside this like hotel. So everyone went inside. Mm-hmm. And it was us, the photographers, and the DJ left in this tent alone. Not even like venue employees were coming to move anything. The entire ceremony setup was still there. And we were just waiting because we were like, someone must be coming to like
someone has to move
clear this stuff out.
Yeah.
They forgot.
No one came. And
we were moving chairs.
It was like 45 minutes and no one came. We popped into cocktail hour, did what we needed to do there, and still no one came. So we were with the DJ and he was setting up, his uplights in the tent. And then we were like, guys, like the reception is starting in like 5 minutes. Everyone's going to come back in here and there's chairs everywhere.
Oh no.
So we, as the vendor team, banded together and moved all the chairs out of there.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, well, it's up to us now where we put anything. So couples table, they're going to sit here so we get a clear shot of them. Cake is going over here because this is where we want it. So we just took full control.
Oh, no.
Luckily, most of the tables were all still there because the reception was set up. It was just the ceremony was moved into the tent because it was raining, and then they just moved chairs out there and a couple other things around. But it was pretty easy to set up. That couple also,
they were a good couple.
They were great. They had some terrible luck where they went through like 4 different at least 4, I think, venue coordinators over the course of their planning process, which was like, close to 2 years. And the most recent one had like somehow like left or gotten fired, or I don't even know what happened, but like a week before the wedding.
Oh no.
Yeah, so the guy who was actually there had no idea who these people were or like what they needed.
Oh, and he was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I think he wore some other hat and he just had to like fill it out. So it was just like
it's happening more and more is what I'm finding too, specifically like with the venue like coordinator or manager role. Is that like there's a big turnover with those big venues, or not even, it's not just big venues, but venues in general, that like it's just something to be aware of, is that with those venues, if you don't have an outside coordinator, if there's turnover, the person that you might have had that relationship with and like felt comfortable with might not be there
exactly
on your wedding day. So it definitely causes some stress, I feel, for the clients sometimes, and I see it all the time. I'm like, it's fine. Like, I've got it. Like, I'll talk to Sean or whoever, and we'll make it work. And it's a lot, but I've been finding that's a big thing right now in the industry. Is the venue coordinators are coming and going.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting to hear. Very interesting to hear. So we talked about how important like some vendors are, like we talked about how important good entertainment is, and then there's other areas where you can maybe like save a little bit for your wedding. But do you kind of have like a certain vendors that like, I mean, everybody's intentional with their own wedding.
Yes.
But in your professional opinion, are there kind of like certain vendors that it's like, hey, you really shouldn't skimp on these people? Do you have essentially like a vendor tier list?
Yes.
Per se.
This is where I get in trouble.
This is where she doesn't look.
This is all an opinion. Disclaimer: all opinions, not fact.
This is an opinion. So you can't skip on photography. You can't skip on food. You can't skip if you want a videographer. You can't skip on a videographer. Because Uncle Dave, who likes to have a camera, is not going to do it. He's not going to know how to get the right sound. Like, it's not going to happen. You can't skip on entertainment. So those 4 kind of like the major ones. If you don't count me too, but
that is also very true. I think I wholeheartedly agree with that tier list.
Well, it's like I like to put with coordinators and planners, like you don't want like people like, oh, well, my aunt will do it. Like my aunt has the day free, so she can just like be on top of everything. Well, your aunt has the right to also enjoy your wedding and not have to stress about it. Or like your maid of honor shouldn't have to be stressing about it. The number one thing that's going to ruin your friendship is asking a friend to coordinate your wedding.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
That's something that people don't think about because we see it all the time too.
Yeah. And then it's like your friend is trying to be nice but she's stressed out, but she can't tell you, the bride or the groom, that she's stressed out. So she's bottling it up, and that's just not healthy.
Right.
And then a $300 person off of Facebook doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, the first question people have asked me is like, hey, is Nick videoing your wedding? I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, Nick's going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Which is actually kind of a struggle because like right now I'm like looking for potential videographers, but I'm like, I kind of just want to like hire me.
It's hard. It's definitely hard taking this when it's your wedding.
Yeah.
Taking the step back. Like I wasn't even in the coordinating realm at that point when I was. But I was like, oh, I do events all the time. Like I know how to do like a run of show. Like it's the same thing as a timeline, but we call it a run of show in the biz. Like I know how to do like the vendor management, the timeline management, all of this. Like I can just do it. And then it got to like the week of my wedding. I'm like, who's gonna set the tables up? Because I'm getting hair and makeup done. Like I have to be 10 minutes away at the hotel. Like who's gonna do that and know everything? Luckily, I have amazing roommates, but pretty sure they wanted to kill me. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, from experience now doing a couple friends' weddings, like I definitely don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an exception, I guess. Like I would film his wedding, but I know he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that hiring friends and using friends to help plan or do anything is a good idea.
Well, even if like, so how to say this the right way. So I have friends who are getting married, and I won't do their weddings anymore. Friends and family are a no for me now.
Yeah.
It just causes way too much drama because they tend to ask for a lot more. And like, I can't say no to that because they're my friends and my family.
Yeah. A lot of times they know that too.
Exactly. They know that. And they're trying to take advantage of you subtly.
Or like they don't even realize they're taking advantage.
Right.
And it's like, I get put into a spot where I'm like, well, I can't tell you no because I don't want to cause drama because I'm literally going to be seeing you at Thanksgiving. Like, so I have a no now, at least for weddings. If it's like a birthday party or something, like I'll help you. Like that's not a problem.
Sure.
But weddings, I'm like, there's so many things that could go wrong that I'm going to have to tell you that could upset you, that could then like influence our relationship. So I have a no on that now. I'm like, I can recommend someone for you. I've got a lot of great planner coordinator friends. But I just don't, I'm very open that I just don't think it's good for our relationship.
I feel like that's a struggle that /him is having right now because as wedding videographers, we aren't really meeting that many other wedding videographers because we're the only ones there.
It's the hardest thing.
So like finding other valid, trusted, and like in our opinion, good wedding videographers is kind of hard for us because we're not really in the same room as them all the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things too where it's like it's your wedding.
Yeah.
So you want it to be absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
You're like, I could do it perfect, but you can't do it perfect because you're the one standing up there.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I feel like I have an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time being somebody in the industry. It's like I've seen how I have seen how certain people work from the vendor perspective, and so I can make decisions that way. But then it's like I don't have that kind of like ignorance is bliss type thing.
Yeah.
I know too much.
Yeah, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and I don't have it anymore, and it's kind of popped the bubble.
Yeah, for sure. We talk a lot about things that couples may not think of on a wedding day, but can you think of any other kind of like maybe misconceptions that couples have going into wedding planning? You know, it could be big, it could be like very minor details that either they don't think about or they might think something is one way when it's actually the other way. I mean, I'm sure there's like a million things you can think of, but
There's a million. The first one that I always say though, and people are like, "That's not true." I'm like, "It's true." Like, yes, I've hit 140 weddings at this point. It's true. What takes you 5 minutes on a regular day is going to take you 30 minutes on your wedding day.
So true.
Yep.
That is true.
Putting your wedding dress on is not like putting on regular clothes. And if it has buttons, 40 minutes.
Yes.
So that's a big one. People are like, oh, well, like, why are you saying it takes 30 minutes for people to sit down after cocktail hour? And I'm like, because I have to move 200 people from one spot to another spot.
Yes.
And then get them to find their spot.
And people don't
sit.
listen.
They don't.
couple that
Herding
with
of the
some
cats.
drinks and
Yeah. They've been drinking for the last hour. They're in the middle of a conversation. They
Right.
need to use the bathroom. Bathroom is the bane of my like existence on wedding days. I'm like, the one thing that will delay your ceremony start time is the bathroom. People get off the bus or they get to the venue and they have to go. So you have a 4 o'clock start time. Realistic start time is until 4:10, 4:15.
Yeah.
and it's funny, you actually
You
wrote
wrote
that
that.
in your timeline. I
I write
remember
in
looking
all
at your
my
timeline and I was like, yep.
Yeah, I write in all my timelines because people, I had a mom who at the time, she was involved in all of the prep work, all of the pre-planning. So she knew ceremony start was 4 on the invite, but the real start time was 4:10. But I had not written it in the timeline. And she grabs me by the arm with her nails at 4 o'clock and she goes, "Why aren't we starting?" I was like, as we discussed, like it's a realistic start time of 4:10. I'm like, we actually still have people walking in right now, and I'm pushing it. I've shut down the bathrooms. I always shut them down 5 minutes before the start time on the invite. I've already shut down the bathrooms. We're trying to get everyone out. We're trying to get people from the parking lot to the ceremony site. And she goes, "Well, we need to start right now." And I was like, "We have," and I'm like, what is causing you stress? And she's like, "Well, it's gonna push the whole timeline." I was like, "It's not, because we've planned for this." I'm like, "Everything's fine," and she's like, well, we need to start now. And she's like stumbling over her words, and I was like, "I promise you, if we start at 4:10, you're not even going to realize that it affects anything in the timeline, because it's not going to." Because I have a 10-minute buffer at this point. I've got another 10-minute buffer over here at this point in the timeline that no one realizes. She actually bruised me when she grabbed me.
That's crazy.
Because she was that anxious. And she was also the mom who, when she grabbed me, she was like, "I just want to remind you that I paid for you, so you're going to do what I tell you." And I turned around and I was like, "Well, I just want to remind you that in my contract, it says that I report to the bride and groom only and not who the payee is."
Right.
Yeah.
But she ended up being fine for the rest of the day. She did apologize later on, but she got stressed about that actual start time. So that's why it's in all my timelines. Plus, I want to know, or I want the vendors to know that it says 4 o'clock, but realistic start time is going to be 4:10. So we're not going to start running around crazy until that point.
Yeah, no, that was really helpful. I mean, we knew that we always know that there's a realistic start time later on. It will never be on time, but like, just seeing it is like, oh yeah. That's nice.
Amanda's done this once or twice this week.
Yeah.
So everything takes longer on a wedding day. That's like one thing.
Everything takes longer. You're not going to start on your start time. It takes at least 15 minutes to get people to sit down.
Yep.
Do your cake unannounced. Your cake cutting unannounced.
Yeah, I prefer that too.
It saves so much time because I can move, say we're ahead of time. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to then do cake cutting at this point because we're ahead of time and let's just get it out of the way. Like,
yeah.
I mean, unless you like really are into like showing off your cake, then sure, whatever. But for the most part, every couple we have like could not care less. They're just like,
it's
just cut
more
it.
for the parents. I'm finding like the mom really wants that photo.
Parents are always there taking iPhone photos.
Aunt Pat needs to get her phone photo of the cake being cut, but it's really I'm like let's just do a private cake cutting. Like let's do something like over here out of the way. Like we'll still get the photo for mom and Aunt Pat. But we don't need to do, it can be 5 minutes instead of a 30-minute thing.
Yeah.
Because when it's announced, it takes forever because everyone gathers round or we have to get everyone's attention and someone that needs to see it is always missing. So it becomes a thing.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
You'll be happy to know. Or maybe you won't be. I don't know. But
will I be at your wedding?
So we're planning on doing ice cream, like a first scoop. We're big ice cream fans.
Yeah.
So
That's been a big thing lately is ice cream or like just foregoing the cake altogether.
I think a lot of people, I love cake too.
I'm
Don't
not
get me
a
wrong.
huge cake guy. I'll take ice cream though.
I love cake, but I think on weddings, like not that many people actually eat it.
No.
It's like if you're
the amount of cake I throw out at the end of the night would amaze you.
If you're so set on going to a wedding because you want the cake, like maybe you should really
Wrong reason to
evaluate
go.
why you're at the wedding.
Well, there's so like
Just have a
everyone
brownie or
has their
something.
opinions, but there's so many better options.
You know, I'm a fan of the non-cakes. Like I seen like
dessert
donut
girl.
towers. Like those are fun.
A
French fry wall.
I had a
random
poutine,
things like that.
like a fry, like make your own fries. You could have like poutine or like, it was so good. I was like staring at it all night and I'm like, I hope there's leftovers at the end. Or like I've had like a whole like smorgasbord of things where it was like brownies, whoopie pies. They had some cupcakes, little mini pies, like little like pudding like shot cups.
Okay, wait. So not dessert related, but I have a question. So one of my friends is also planning her wedding. I don't think she's gonna go with this, but I really want her to because I'm gonna be there and I'll be eating it.
Okay, so who are we dedicating this part to?
So I was wondering if you've ever seen like so you've seen like, you know, what's it called? A pizza truck type thing, brick oven, like in trailer. We've seen stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like a mobile hibachi station at a wedding? Is that even a thing? Because I was talking with her and we had that idea and I'm like, that would be awesome.
I don't know if I've seen a hibachi.
It's like an onion volcano.
I've had like an Asian fusion like food truck come.
I don't even know if it's a possibility of having like a giant
There has to
stove
be
oveny thing.
I'm like, what's her budget? Because I definitely like I know like a hibachi company that does like private events.
Oh, okay.
But it's more like 20 to 30 people.
I know. I feel like they would need like a giant thing and like 5 chefs at a time.
At least 5. But they could like coordinate and that could be cool.
Yeah.
They did like a whole show. Just like roll out a hibachi table.
Yeah.
I support this.
Yeah. I'm like, as soon as she had the idea, I was like, please do that. I would love to eat that.
I have had the dancing cannoli man.
Dancing cannoli
Dancing
man?
cannoli man.
Yeah, so he
The
gets.
dancing is the only one.
I mean, I'm sure there's more, but there's like he's a very nice gentleman. He comes with like this little tray. Kind of looks like, if you go to like a baseball game and they're like serving like the hot dogs and stuff. It's like one of those like little things, and he'll like pipe like a fresh cannoli, and then he has like all these different toppings that you can like dip your cannoli in. But he goes onto the dance floor and is like dancing while he's doing this. He's like, you want a cannoli? And it was so much fun. It was great, and everyone loved it. But
I can see that being cool.
oh yeah, and the guy was like so nice, and he was like, I just dance. I'm like, this is why you're skinny, because like you're just dancing every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night,
Cannolis as you want.
Just eating
making
cannolis.
all the cannolis you can get. Like, it's great. That was a fun one.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, I think it started last year. It like blew up on Instagram for a little bit, and then I had a bride who saw it, and I was like,
It's a New England thing. Like,
I feel like you can find
there's
it
probably,
anywhere, but
there's at least one
there's at
famous
least
guy
one
in this area.
in the area of New England. I actually think he might have I think he was out of Boston, but I know there's one in New York. It's not the same guy, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I guess what kinds of things maybe that you saw the past couple of years, and maybe new things that you're seeing going into 2025, what kinds of things things like that, cannoli man, like just random either trends or just little things that happen at a wedding that are maybe unique, that are just kind of like coming into the picture now?
Because we're filming this at the end of 2024.
Yeah.
Season's done.
Yeah.
Anything new or interesting happened this year, the last year or two?
I need everyone to do the cannoli man.
I hear a lot of
things.
people talking about champagne towers, but that's
Oh,
not really
they're
like
I don't like
back?
them.
it's like a
I can tell you about
Yeah.
a whole bunch of trends I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like the
so
tower.
That's
The-
probably easier. What kinds of trends or traditions maybe are like dying? I guess that's two different things.
Dying is very aggressive.
Yeah. What kinds of things are you seeing people doing less and less of? Because I can think of bouquet toss, garter toss.
Bouquet toss is
It's
not
kind
a
of
thing.
gone.
So out of the 45
Yeah.
weddings we did this year, we only had 2 bouquet toss.
Yeah, we
No
never got them.
garter tosses at
Yeah.
all.
I think we've
Haven't
only
done
had
that.
1 or 2 in our whole career.
Yeah. And one of the bouquet toss was like a setup for a proposal. Like the bride, like one of the bridesmaids, like
Oh, okay.
boyfriends came to her and he was like, "Hey, how would you feel?"
I wouldn't like that.
Controversial
they're
topic
stealing
there.
your
I
thunder.
would hate it. She was all about it. And I was like, if you're okay with it, like we can do it, but I just want you to know, like it's gonna take some of the spotlight off. She's like, I'm completely fine with it. She's like, I've been there since the beginning, blah, blah, blah. I was like, great, so we'll do it. And they did it. It was fine. Not my cup of tea, but everyone has their cup of tea.
Yeah.
So yeah, bouquet toss is out, garter toss is out, cake cutting out, cake in general is out in my opinion. I think I only had maybe 10 weddings this year where they had a cake that was like the only dessert was this cake. They had no other option. A trend that's in is like the cutting cakes, either a 1-tier or 2-tier, like 6-inch or 8-inch cake that they'll cut, and then they'll either have it cut up and give that to the wedding party or put it out, or they'll save it, the whole cutting cake, and they'll eat it at a different time, which is gross. So I've seen those. Food truck, I have a love-hate relationship with food trucks. No one gets enough. So I say
you
for
can only
every...
have so much food in a truck.
Yeah, and it's very slow. So the service
Right.
on it is like watching paint dry because they have to ask, well, what do you want? Great, now we're going to go make it. Like, stand over here. So I always say for every 30 to 50 people, you need at least 1 truck.
Yeah.
So if you have 150 people, you need 3 trucks of
Jeez.
3 different varieties. So like it's a slow process, and you just need a lot, and it's not a way to save money. Because everyone thinks you can save money that way. You can't. You'll spend a lot more.
I'm trying to think of things we've seen.
Yeah.
I've heard
What
people
about like
talk about-
exits?
Yeah.
Like
Sparklers are out.
Yeah, we haven't had a sparkler in a while.
Yeah. I mean, I see it every now and then. Most venues at this point have said no sparklers because there's been too many injuries. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had a groom who literally got a sparkler across the forehead and like literally has a line across his forehead going to his honeymoon because he got burnt.
Jeez.
I've come close.
Yeah.
Someone tried to stick a sparkler in your hair before?
Yeah, they've tried to put it in my hair, like on me. I would like have to shove them off, like get away from me because they're just drunk.
I had a mom throw sparklers at me once, and I got 2nd-degree burns.
Jeez.
I had a whole at a different wedding. I had a whole nother like we were lighting them, and I had a bunch in my hand. And normally you can light like 5 at a time, 10 at a time, as long as you're careful. But they were kind of like the cheaper sparklers. Not all sparklers are made the same.
That's correct. Yeah.
And when I lit them, it just like exploded, and I got burns down my arm.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
So I have a pretty firm clause in my contract that says I can deny you on those. Like if you have 200 people, we're not having 200 people with sparklers. If they're drunk or intoxicated, they're not getting them. Like I usually say, if you want to do photos with them, like let's grab your wedding party and we can go do sparkler photos and video in the back. But it's just to get 100 to 200 people to do photos and to all be listening. I'm like, I have to end your wedding 20 minutes early. Mm-hmm. I then have to kick everyone outside. I have to stand on a chair and be like, hey, y'all have to listen for the next 10 minutes because if you don't, you're not going to be a part of the fun. Mm-hmm. And then I go through it's a whole thing. So
I wish more people did what you do with your bubble bazookas. I prefer those. Like when we can light the bubbles a certain way, like I think bubbles look way better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I bought more bubble bazookas now, so they're part of my inventory.
I can just see you.
I had them at a wedding recently, and like the groomsmen like just didn't know what was going on, and I was like, "We're about to bubble bazooka the place," and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "You're about to have the most fun you've ever had with bubbles in your entire life."
Jeez.
And then I couldn't get the bazookas away from them for the rest of the night. And it was hilarious.
Men are simple creatures.
Bubble bazookas, who would have thought? But they make like nice ones too that are like black and white, so they're like wedding themed. Worth it. Can't really get hurt with those unless you're on tile. But
what about like exits in general? Like, do people like do? They're kind of like fading away.
They're fading away. What I'm finding, what I really like, is the private final dance. So let's kick everyone out.
Oh, okay.
Let's do a private final dance. What I like to do is like we'll take some like of the flowers. We'll make like a background, like a nice backdrop for you. Maybe some candles like along the floor. We turn down the lights. We make it nice and romantic, and you get a final dance.
I'm not gonna say they're not nice. We have had one that was like really, really nice. Yeah. Very beautiful. Exactly what you were saying. Like they were fully alone, very romantic.
Yeah.
But we honestly just don't stay till the end.
Yeah. You guys don't see the end as much as me.
Yeah. And I mean, I've actually heard people saying the private last dance thing isn't actually that great because of some logistical things. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it kind of depends on how you do it, I guess. If you're like just sending them away for all the like, okay, just leave.
Yeah,
the private dance like works.
The bus is here to take you away.
Okay, yeah, so you say it's time to go.
Yeah, I tell the guests, I'm like, we're done. Enjoy your ride home. Be safe. Yeah. The wedding party or anyone who's staying, we push into a different part of the building. Usually they have to pack up the bridal suite or the groom's suite or something like that. And I tell the bride ahead of time, I'm like, I'm going to firmly tell your mom that she needs to leave. Because it's usually the parents who want to see it. Yeah. And I'm like, they want a private moment. They've been with 120 people, 150 people all day long. They want a private moment just for the two of them. And I guard the door. Like guy's Black Ops. So, yeah. I think it's a sweet moment. I really like when couples do like a private moment somewhere in their day. So one of the other trends that have been kind of up and coming the last like year or two has been like the private dinner where they go and they have dinner somewhere else so no one can interrupt them. They have a private moment.
Oh, interesting. I've
haven't
never
heard of
seen
this
that.
one at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. Depending on the venue, like we'll make like a nice intimate area for them. So I make sure that like we get like extra stuff. And it gives them time for 20 minutes for them to sit down, decompress a little bit, talk about how their day's going. Hopefully it's amazing. But I really like the private last dance and the private dinner. I wouldn't do both.
Yeah.
You could do both. I haven't seen that one yet, but I think just making sure that they take time out of their day to have a moment with just themselves.
Yeah. That's nice.
I'm more of an Irish goodbye kind of guy.
I've had some of those this year too. I'm like, where did they? Because sometimes
They left.
Yeah, it's an overwhelming day, and I don't think
Yeah.
people realize how overwhelming it is. So I've had people actually end their reception early and just be like,
We're done. We can't
like
do it anymore.
our social batteries are drained. We're ready to go. They're like, we've had a great day. Like everything was absolutely perfect. We're just exhausted. So I've had that before. People are
Tell
like,
the DJ to play the last song, wrap it up. Okay,
Yeah.
everybody, the buses
buses
outside.
are hopefully here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good to know. Well, it's been a long year, kind of I mean, for you, I assume there's less of an off season than it is for us. I mean, we're going into engagement season now,
Yeah.
so calls are going to start ramping up. But I guess, what kinds of things do you do, I guess, at the end of season to decompress and then kind of in the quote off season to prepare for like the next one?
Yeah, so I take about a month and a half off. So the last wedding happens, and I don't come back until after the new year. I take some calls.
Yeah.
Like I think I have like 5 calls in December that are like our 6-month check-in. But other than that, I don't do anything. Like
Do some podcasts.
I do some podcasts. I'm actually starting my own, so we're working on that.
It's about time.
I know. I'm sorry. You guys will be on it. I promise.
Let's go.
But I just take some time to be back with my husband, snuggle with the dogs and the cats if they want to like me that day. I usually travel a little bit too. So like I went to North Carolina for a weekend. I'm going down to Florida for a little bit. I'll be in Arizona for a little bit.
Nice.
So I gotta get some escape rooms in because
Yes.
you know I'm obsessed with escape rooms. So we'll travel a little bit, and then January will come around, and we're right back to.
You'll have like 5,000 emails in your inbox.
Yeah, well, I stay on top of my emails
Yeah.
because I can't disconnect. But
Is there anything new that you're like preparing to try out next year, or anything that you're looking forward to doing differently?
I have a new lead starting next year that I'm really excited about. She's great. So I'm like training her, and I think she's gonna blow it out of the water. And then
Wait, so do you have anyone full time now, or would this be the?
so they're all still contractors, which just works out for everyone in my opinion. But like I said, maybe in a couple years we'll have someone either part time, if not full time, because emails are crazy. But as far as like starting new things, I'm currently in a certification program I got certified in wedding planning and design, wedding design. But now I'm going for my master's in wedding planning and design. So I'm due to finish that, and then I'm sure I'm going to rip through all the stuff that I give people and be like, oh, here's some more things that are better for you guys and will help my clients out more. Because like right now they get a portal, and in that portal there's like helpful hints and like helpful like spreadsheets and things for them to fill out to make sure they stay on task and all the answers are being answered. But I'm sure when I finish this course, I already have like a whole list of things that I want to change in there. So I'll be ripping through the back end.
Yeah. We're kind of in the similar process right now of switching things up, improving, and just like enhancing our client experience moving forward.
New guides, updating the website, making sure our films from this year are out there in the portfolio. And I mean, I would love to take some more time off, but I think like we do commercial work.
I'm technically not even off right. Like I kind of am, but I'm second shooting next week.
Yeah.
For someone
That's not
else.
I'm done with that. I'm still editing a few.
Yes.
Gotta deliver those, and then
It's been a while, so I have to like get myself back in the mindset.
Yeah. Well, it's like every now and then. So I have a pretty firm, like, I try not to take any weddings that are less than 6 months, like, out.
Right.
But every now and then it will be like January and I'll get like a, hey, could you do day of coordination in April or something? And I'll be like, I'll do event management in April, which means you'll be meeting with me on a monthly basis at this point because we have 4 months to make sure you have all the answers answered and everything kind of tied up in a neat, nice little bow. But yeah, always improving things. So I like my off season because I get to really like focus on some of the things that I've been putting off because it was too crazy during the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we love a good off season. Yeah. So 2024 is concluded. Can you, as kind of like a closing, can you think of any juicy stories, any crazy experiences that are safe to share on the podcast?
PG-13 and
We were talking about a few earlier that we will not.
Yeah, we definitely can't talk about those.
Even if it's not from this year, if these are too fresh, it could be an older one.
I'm still recovering
Yeah.
from a couple. Yeah, I mean, the end of my year was pretty rough. But all in all, my year went pretty well. I had the standard hiccups with a couple of DJs. Some of them, or one DJ, I think you guys already talked about once, or will be talking about maybe.
I mean, that's a good thing that it went well.
I mean, at the end of the day, it went really well. I've said a couple of my standard go-to like horror stories with like the mom bruising me and the mom giving me 2nd-degree burns, but that was a year and a half or 2 years ago at this point. We've recovered and moved on. I did have, there's so many. I did have one earlier in the season where I like turned to my assistant and I was like, we're doing this. I hope you're ready. And it was literally like, there wasn't any moment that was absolutely crazy, but it was a Brazilian wedding and they just tend to run significantly behind, but they had chosen a venue that was very firm on time.
Those things don't pair well together.
Yeah. So it was like, I knew it was going to be an interesting day at the rehearsal when the person who was supposed to be marrying them showed up. And he's from Massachusetts. The wedding was in New Hampshire. So he needed to get a 1-day license, and he didn't get a 1-day officiant license.
Jeez.
And I was like, I might have a solution. You need to give me 15 minutes. I'm like, but let's get the rehearsal done, and I'll then call my people and see what I can do. So at the rehearsal went fine. The wedding, or Brazilian weddings in general, there's just a lot of people involved in their weddings. So like they have all their godparents and there's like 10 of those. And then you have 20 people in your wedding party and the parents. And so that was just like a lot to manage. And then rehearsal happened. I get on the phone. I finally found one of my people who were like, I could come before the ceremony and marry them. And then the
Like
person,
legally.
and legally marry them. And then the ceremony that they have
Just be like the show one.
yeah, you'll have a show one. And I'm like, that works. Went to them. They said, yeah, that's fine. And then on the wedding day, the officiant didn't show up until like 30 minutes after the actual start time, which is 40 minutes after the invite time.
Jeez.
But it was also like none of their guests were there until maybe 20 minutes after their start time. So it was just a cultural, like, everything runs late. So I had to be very on top of like pushing people. I'm like, we need to move. We need to be going to the next. And most of their vendors were Brazilian also. So it was like, they're like, oh, everything's fine. Like, everything. I'm like, they can't stay late at this venue. Like, they will call the cops on you if you're late, or if you're refusing to leave. Like, they have no problem calling the cops. I, at that point, also have no problems with calling the cops. Like, I don't want to, but like we don't want that to be a problem with this. Like, that's not what you want to remember about your wedding. And like the bride and groom were like saints. Like, they were the nicest people ever. And like, no, like, everything's fine. Like, we're going to be out of here at the normal time. Like, it's fine. She's like, we expected the ceremony to be late. And I was like, okay. I'm like, as long as you have realistic expectations that I can then get on the same realistic expectation train with you. And I'm like, we won't be able to get as many photos during cocktail hour because we're going to have to cut cocktail hour a little bit. And we'll have to kind of readjust the timeline. I'm like, if you're okay with it, like, and you trust me, like, if you just let me kind of readjust the whole timeline into something that's more suitable. And she's like, absolutely. And I was like, great. So that it worked out perfectly in the end. There was no time problems. They were to get all their photos that they wanted. Super nice couple. So it worked out, but it was very stressful.
Yeah.
Just being like, and they didn't, I would say at least 90% of the guests did not speak English.
Jeez.
So they actually hired me an interpreter for the whole day. So I had like
a shadow
the whole day with my assistant too. Cause like I was trying to be like, oh, like, how do I tell them like we need to sit down? Because the DJ also is English speaking. So I need the interpreter to go on the microphone and ask them to please sit. I'm like, cause I can like, I don't want to be rude, but like I can like try to like
gesture it,
sit. But I don't want them to think I'm being rude. And like, I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know enough Portuguese to be able to get through that.
Right.
Yeah. So they were super nice and they hired me an interpreter.
Nice.
Yeah. And the interpreter was super nice and very like not microphone like shy or anything like that.
Oh, perfect.
So that worked out.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah.
Not too bad of a year, it sounds like.
Yeah, not too bad. We had like the one incident with the pouring of the drink on one of my people. Ooh. That was sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
She handled it with like complete grace though, and
I don't know if I would have handled it that well.
I mean,
getting dumped on like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never about anyone abusing anyone, whether it's a guest abusing one of my staff members, another vendor, or a vendor abusing another vendor. Like, I have a no tolerance for that. So, like, I told my lead who was on site at the time when that happened, I was like, if you need to leave, you leave. I'm like, I'm driving to you. I'm about 15 minutes away. Because I was supposed to have that day off. I'm like, I'm about 15 minutes away. But like, if you feel unsafe or you feel that you're not okay, you need to leave. I'm like, I'm not going to hold that against you. No one can hold that against you. I'm like, we have a pretty firm no harassment clause that says that we can leave if anything happens. And she's like, no, like. She's like, they're being removed from the venue at this point. And the couple are super nice. Everyone else was super nice to them or to her. And we had no problems when I got there. Everything was fine. By the time I got there 15 minutes later, but I felt so bad. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But
That's horrible.
alcohol does crazy things to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alcohol, stressful family dynamic, like, it's a lot. Yeah.
Weddings are a lot.
What about you guys? Do you have any, like, that you can say?
New ones. I've had just kind of like interesting experiences with DJs, and I feel like I don't want to like beat the whole DJ thing into the ground because like the majority of
It was a hard year this year.
Yeah, the majority of DJs we work with are great team players. It's just when you have an experience where somebody's not a team player.
The bad ones are really bad.
Yeah.
And they
it goes,
stand out.
Yeah, it goes for every vendor though too. Like I've had an absolutely horrible videographer once, and I'm like, dude, like
They ruin it for all of us.
Yeah, I'm like, I need you not to do that. Like he literally like he climbed up into a tree and then the branch broke like, in the middle. And I was like, yeah, as he was like climbing the tree, I'm like, you should not be up there. Like you need to not be up there. And he's like, oh well, like I just want to get like an aerial like swoop in. And I was like, like you're on a tiny branch. And then like he got in, like he literally like got into this huge argument with like with the photographer, another vendor, and was like cursing at her. And I was like, that's a no-no. Like we all have to respect each other.
Yeah.
Like, and it's always photographer, videographer, like you stepped in front of me.
Always.
And, they just didn't have great communication. But yeah, when you get one person, sometimes it sours you for a little bit there, but continue with your DJ story.
No, I think like most of them are just like skeptical of us plugging in. We had one where he really didn't want us to like put some backups up on the microphone stand, and
it's just that they don't understand why we need backups because in their eyes their system is perfect and will never fail, but in reality it will always fail.
If you don't do it, it'll happen.
I think a lot of DJs have kind of like a sour taste towards videographers because they have had one experience themselves where the videographer was trash, and they do something that actually messes with what they're doing, and then that just goes for every other videographer they come in contact with. So
I think
it's not always their fault.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't get that one little like blip of the microphone to the audience might not seem like a big deal, but if it's at the wrong time, it messes with our entire video.
Yeah.
So we need
much
that backup.
more noticeable in the video than it is if you're like, because you can fill in things in real life, like just with your brain and stuff. Or like little background noises, like you don't hear that. You kind of have like a natural, you have a natural podcast hearing on the world around you, but it's like all those little tiny things that you might not recognize in real life, those come out in the video, and it's like amplified.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard, like in this industry. I mean, and I guess most industries too. Like, if you have a bad experience with one, you're always a little on edge with the rest.
Yeah.
So it's like I have some DJs that I work with that are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, when we find out that we're working with certain people, we're like ecstatic.
Yeah. But then there's some that you're like, oh, I haven't met this one before.
Yeah.
Like, he said this one sentence in an email that seems a little.
Take every little detail.
Yeah. If a DJ says to me, I'm the best DJ in all of New England, I know it's going to be a horrendous day for me. And you can be. Like, I'm not saying you're not the best, but I already know I'm going to have an attitude.
I mean, someone with that ego.
Yeah. And I'm like, you have to be somewhat humble when it comes to weddings because the day is not about the vendor.
No.
And I think there's some vendors that it's hard for them to understand that. Like, I think we've talked about it once or twice, but like you run into it every now and then where a vendor's like, well, you need the photographer because of the memories, and you need the DJ's more important because they're the entertainment. Well, catering thinks that they're more important because you can't have a wedding without the food, and like you're all so important. Like I can't say that enough. And if we're working at a cohesive team and we're not saying that I'm better than anyone, then it's gonna make everyone shine. And there's quite a few that don't realize that.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I'm like, I would love to work with you, but I know you're going to yell at someone, and it's going to make that person not able to work at their full capacity because now that they're worried about this stuff and that stuff, and it becomes a snowball effect.
Yeah. It makes it hard to be excited to work with new people because when they're good, I love working with new people and expanding the network when we can. But yeah, there's always that slight hesitation when I've never worked with you before. Like, are you gonna work out, or is this not gonna be a good day for me? And
like with you guys are working so closely with the photographers. Like, that's got to be like nerve wracking. Like, are we gonna be stepping in each other's photo? Like,
we gotta size them up as soon as we get there to be like, how is this day gonna go? Because we had one this year where we knew both the DJ and the photographers, and that was a perfect day because we knew exactly who they were and how they were gonna act.
Yeah.
And
that's
we
like
actually
me with
liked
the
them.
venue coordinator.
Yeah.
Me and venue coordinators, we can be best friends, or we could not be. So like I've had some venue coordinators who, by the end of the night, I'm like, I'm never coming back to this venue. Like, the client could give me hundreds of thousands of dollars and I still won't put up with this ever again.
Yep.
Or it's like
They probably some of the venue coordinators probably get like a little territorial, I guess.
Very much so. It's the same with with you guys with the photographers. Like, there's a territory thing, and it's like, I understand you need to make the venue look as perfect as possible, and that's my job too. Like, I'm here to make you guys look great, but I'm also here to make sure that the client's getting what you guys agreed upon earlier in your contract and what they want.
Right.
Yep.
We've got one shot at doing this.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. Like, I still remember this one wedding. It was when I very first started. And the client, it was my last wedding of the season, and the client had gone, like, we had done the whole wedding thing, got through reception. And like most of the guests had left at this point, but like the music was still going, and like the bride and groom turned to me and they're like, we're done. Like, we're tired. We want to go to bed. Like, can we just like cut this early? And I was like, that's completely fine. I'm like, if you want, like, I can still keep the DJ playing for a little bit. We can wind it down that way. Like, we can do like 3 more songs. And she was like really concerned about like packing up the decor. I'm like, I can start right now if you're okaying it. Like, I'll start packing up your stuff and I'll put it on a table for you guys to pick up in the morning. And I'll make sure my stuff is off premises tonight. It will only take me 30 minutes to pack my stuff up and go. And she was like, yeah, that sounds perfect. And then like we had started to do that, and I had told the venue coordinator, I'm like, they want to end early. She told me to start packing up. She said everything was great. She's happy. She's happy. So I start packing up, and the venue coordinator comes over to me, and I'm like talking to the bride's dad, and he's saying like how amazing the day was and how thankful he was and all this stuff. He was super nice. And the venue coordinator comes over, steps in front of the dad, and she goes, I can't believe you would start packing up stuff now. They still have an hour and a half on their time. And I was like, well, she told me she wants me to pack up now. And she's like, well, that goes against everything in the industry. And I was like, if the bride is telling me to pack up, I've already talked to her about it. Like, I'm going to pack up.
Yeah.
And she's like, the dad is standing behind her at
right
this
there.
point.
Hello, sir.
And he's like, Amanda can pack up now. Like, pack up now. We've already told her to pack up because we want to make sure that like that she doesn't need help packing up anything. And I'm thinking, like, I don't need help because it's my job and I wouldn't make you guys do that anyways, but thank you. But he's like, she's doing what she was told to do. Like, I don't understand why you're upset with her. And she just kept going.
Also, it's like this venue coordinator has received word from the bride and the bride's father.
Yeah.
Why not stop there?
Just
realize,
stop there.
Yeah. It's like, okay, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just everyone's happy. Like everyone's happy except for you.
Yeah.
For some reason.
For some reason. And on top of it, like, and I didn't say this, but I'm like, you almost killed the mother of the bride today because the food was supposed to be served family style. And the way that they served food family style was they just put everything on one plate, like, and gave everyone an individual plate instead of they get a plate and then they serve themselves the food.
Right.
So like an
So-
allergy situation or something like that.
Yeah, so the mom had an allergy and now all of her food is contaminated.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, why did we take time to give you the allergy list if you're just going to put all the food on one plate? And the reason why we went family style is so that they could serve themselves. But it was a whole thing. But I was like, I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to be a nice person.
Trying to be the bigger person here.
Yeah, I'm like, at that point, I was like, I already know I'm never coming back. And I found out afterwards that they don't allow outside coordinators anymore. And they ended up not doing weddings anymore because people were complaining about her service.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes
Karma.
they
Karma.
ball don't lie, as they say in basketball.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
that one sticks out to me just because it happened so long ago, and I'm like, I'm here to help you. Like
Yeah.
my
Right.
job with the vendor, like the venue coordinator, is we're very together in everything, and I'm not doing things to hurt you guys. Like,
Of course.
we're a team. I think we've said the word team like 18 times.
Yep. Just need to hammer home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I just don't understand. Like every now and then, you're just like, I don't understand.
I really don't.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense sometimes, but
It truly baffles me every time.
yeah.
Yeah.
We do what we can. We adapt.
We
and we're
able. We
all
become a
team players.
chameleon.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you guys were great to work with. I was super happy I got to work with you guys
Thank
this
you.
year.
Well, the feeling is mutual. The feeling is mutual.
Yes. No, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And,
It definitely tested me in some points at wedding, but not you guys. You guys were there.
I tried.
You tried. What do
We
you
always try. We always try.
Yeah. You did great.
Cool. So you mentioned you're starting a podcast of your own.
Yes.
Where can everybody find you?
So right now we're on Instagram.
Okay.
We're going to try to do Spotify and YouTube because we'll
we
film it just like this. But it's the Wedding Weekend Warriors.
www.www.
That would, you need to think about
Get
this.
that URL.
Yeah, get that URL now. But yeah, it's essentially we'll be talking with other wedding vendors and kind of like how does your day go? How can clients or even other vendors make it easier for you? How do you like to do things and
Yeah.
all that fun stuff and kind of the ins and outs, the back end things that some people don't see.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yet
Yeah.
another educational resource in this
Yeah.
never-ending industry.
Yeah.
Of things.
Yeah, definitely.
And then where can people find
Yeah.
your wedding planning?
Oh, so on Instagram, it's Moments to Remember NH, and then my website's momenttoremembernh.com. I'm
Nice
on
and easy.
Yeah, nice and easy. I'm on Facebook too, but I'll be honest, I really stink at social media.
No one really uses Facebook anymore.
Yeah, it's for old
fine.
people, as my nieces and nephew like to tell me.
I just
so.
click the button that says also share to Facebook from
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah,
That does the trick.
yeah.
And I'll get a notification. It's like, your grandma liked XYZ post. And I'm like, that's all I needed it for.
Yeah, Grandma. Thanks, Grandma, for the support. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So
Perfect.
you guys make sure you check out Amanda's stuff if you're looking for somebody to plan your wedding, which you absolutely should. Also, make sure to follow us on social media at SeaMount Weddings. Follow us along on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, leave us a 5-star review, all those things. And if you're looking to book wedding videography yourself, it is SeaMountWeddings.com. And that pretty much does it for today. We'll see you guys in the next one.